With more than half of the races gone, it's impressive how tight the points battle has stayed at the top. A maximum of 420 points are available to drivers each week, and yet the top four are separated by less than 100 markers. Road America has seen some shakeups in the other classes, so will tonight be the same? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 9 Challenge class live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Rachel Whiteford. Cameron Aubernon is on social media, and Ryan Bauer is producing while using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Well, the iRacing track repair services had their leveling equipment out last week. They diligently worked to resolve the problematic bump in the kink scene in Wednesday evening's club race, and thanks to their efforts, the crews were able to smooth the surface once again, just in time for the pros to take the track on Thursday. I'm sure the drivers heaved a sigh of relief. But before we get to the racing, we're proud to announce that Pirelli is back as the PCA Sim Racing title sponsor for Series 9. Pirelli was founded in Milan in 1872 and today stands as a global brand known for its cutting-edge technology, high-end production, excellence, and passion for innovation that draws heavily on its Italian roots. Pirelli is among the world's major producers of tires and is an OEM supplier to Porsche. Find out more about Pirelli at Pirelli.com. Series 9 is also sponsored by Six Sigma Sim Racing, which was founded in 2021 by automotive engineers as a new sim racing equipment provider. After 1 year, Six Sigma now has divisions in the USA, Japan, Australia, and Europe, providing the best valued sim racing cockpits and peripherals. Six Sigma offers 10% off to any PCA member from the website, and the coupon code is PCA Sim. For more information about Six Sigma Sim Racing, please visit their website at sixsigmasimracing.com. That's the number 6, sigmasimracing.com. Now, Rachel, this is a popular circuit here, but it seems to have provided quite a bit of challenge for the drivers in these events.
It certainly has, and if you're ever driving down Wisconsin Highway 67, and
here, that is for sure. Now, as for the point situation up at the top, it is Scott Bowers. But as I mentioned, look at those first four, all under 100 points away. And then it's really not too far down to the next one in fifth for Ed Trippett. But he's probably more concerned about John Gibson, who's relatively close behind him. So this could all shake around. It's, in fact, the top 10 have a mere 400 points between them, 444 really, or 443 if you want to be exact on that one. So it is all staying quite close. Actually, up there qualifying right now, though, as they only get 3 laps in the challenge series, so it's not unlimited like we see in some of the others, Rachel. So the pressure is on to get a clean one in. As we watch Jeff Lashway here coming around the final corner, he is yet to set a time. He's got the number 1 on his car, but can he put it close to that? He's got to get near to a 2:05.688 if he wants that pole position. A 2:08.1 is going to be well off of that. That's only good enough for 14th, Rachel.
yeah, it certainly is. And one of the things that's really important here is, like Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, you have to be very careful. It's a 4-mile lap, which is incredibly long. There's a lot of opportunity to get a single off-track. 0x will validate your entire lap, so you have to be very careful with that.
Indeed. Only David Purdy and DJ Sell still need a lap. Everybody else has had at least one. Todd Rosman on the top with that 2:05.688 currently. But the highest driver right now that is out on track is Olin Murphy. And even that, no, he just exited because it looks like the qualifying is actually up here. So that means our grid is set for the heat race, and this will set the order for the feature. Todd Rosman is on pole. As I mentioned, John Gibson will start second, followed by Scott Bowers in P3. After that, Michael Adams will be in fourth. Edward Trippett starts from fifth today, followed by Levi Nelson in sixth. Drew Kenny starts P7. Then you've got Randy Lervold to his outside in 8th position, Jonathan Reber in 9th, and Olin Murphy in 10th. We'll cycle through the rest of our 24-car field. Only Sell and Purdy failed to set a time. As I had mentioned them earlier, they didn't get around in time to put one on the board. So all of the races so far have seen their fair of share of drama, including last night, especially, Rachel. So do you think the challenge drivers have been watching carefully and know to try and keep themselves attentive in these first few corners?
Well, that's what they call it, a challenge, isn't it? It's a challenge to do better than everyone else. I think they will. It's hard not to have learned from that, and I think we'll see a bit of a difference. There's experimentation, of course, but there's also corners here that just will bite a pack of cars.
Indeed. They also have to keep themselves on the track. At 16 incidents, they'll get a drive-through penalty, and every 5 after that until they reach 30, they'll get another drive-through. At 30, they basically get deleted. Well, not basically, they literally get deleted from the track. They'll be removed. So you can't really waste it too much around here. 16 can rack up quickly. 4 car contacts, which is admittedly a lot, but still, if you're a little bit sloppy and rough, those could happen and you're out, or you're down pit lane quite quickly. Rosman now has control as the pace car is in, waiting for the command from Barney the flagman. And there it is. Green flag is out. It's a pretty decent start for him. Gibson is nowhere near him. And it's a good start for Adams back there in 4th in the 911, but he's boxed in. He's got no place to go as they fly down into turn 1. Someone's sailing up the inside, and now we've got 2 cars off track. It looks like they're not going to hit anybody else as the rest of the field is going to make it through turn 1.
Yeah, Bauer's got kind of unfortunately contacted there by the machine next to him, the 11, and moved over. Gibson moves across, hits him, and unfortunately in the avoidance, I believe that was possibly Nelson back there. It was not. No, that was just ahead of him. Adams tried to stay a little wide in avoidance of the accident. 24, I do apologize, and he ends up spiraling the other way, Drew Kenny.
Yep, so he's at the back of the field, but he was able to get back on track. Just a little bit of damage on the car, not too bad at the moment. Up at the front, it is still Rosman leading. Gibson holds on to that second spot. Adams into 3rd, and Scott Bowers manages somehow to still be in 4th, despite that real scare there at the start of the race. They're already into the hurry downs.
Certainly are indeed, and it's evened out already pretty quickly. We've got some separation here, which will help people keep themselves in place, but it's definitely about trying to make a break early here. More room, slightly easier to get around this place.
Thankfully, now that the kink has been smoothed out, looks like everybody's going through their fine so far. About half the field have managed to traverse it. Nope, I spoke too soon. We got a wreck behind them, unfortunately. Looks like the 116 involved. Oh, there's a lot of them piling in, unfortunately. And this is going to be a big one. A lot of carbon fiber has been collected.
Youch, yep, lap 1 blues here at Road America yet again, so they're living up to the other classes at this track. It's definitely been a rough one. Kaufman is hugging the wall right now after his enjoyment through that one. He came in late to that crash, and rather than slowing down, you know what, I actually think that's possibly a separate black flag, because he just sent it into the crash from quite a way back, where he realistically would have put the hammers on.
Now, there's also a black flag for John Gibson.
That was lap 1. He moved across.
Oh, okay. So, oh man, that is rough from him. So he is going to cycle. Well, he's not going to cycle as far down as maybe he anticipated, because that wreck has taken out so many people. He's only falling to 9th position here. Wow. Well, he doesn't have a lot of cars to pass, but he has a lot of time to make up, and that'll be harder than the overtakes as we come back to Lervold, who is in 6th position. That's Trippett just in front of us as we ride on the roof of the 13 car down into turn 5. Not close enough to attack this time, Rachel, but sticking with it.
Yeah, he's close, but it's not going to be enough to do anything with it just yet. He's going to have to work on that for the moment. Maybe the rest of the end of this lap or into the next one we could see something happen, but it'll depend. Yeah, no, Gibson was the car that moved, triggering that entire lap on corner 1 incident there behind your leader. And, well, DJ Lion and the rest of the crew in race control have ordered him down pit road to pay penance.
Which he has dutifully done, as I mentioned, but just didn't lose as much as maybe anybody anticipated in this one due to the bizarre circumstances for the wreck, which has brought almost literally half the field in. In fact, I think it is literally half the field. I see from 12th on down, That is absolutely stunning. That is going to mean that just keeping it together here up at the front, and you are in for perhaps a pretty good points day.
Absolutely. Let's not forget, this will set the grid for our main event tonight, meaning that how you finish here could really benefit you. And if you are bad at qualifying, this could be your day. The 24th Purdy is in 10th. He didn't qualify. That's some good gains.
Yeah, it's up 14 now for the 010. He lost one just now to John Gibson, who's on his charge back forward. There's the roof cam of Purdy. So he managed to make it through probably a good chunk of that wreck coming through the kink on the first lap, and just has to try and cruise home because he's got about 11 seconds down to DJ Sell. Remember, this is the sprint race format, so they've only got 10 minutes left, and it's going to take maybe an issue from David Purdy to lose another position or two from here on out. In the meantime, this is a nice little battle here as well. No, that's not for position. That's Adams putting a lap on a car, except for Scott Bowers back there. He is trying to challenge for that second place. Needs to leave some space to the outside there for Robert in the 809. He's going to get out of the way and allow both of them through.
Yeah, he is. Let's not forget, this is a 10-minute race for this sprint format, this qualifier, which is only 5. Oh, my God, that happened.
Levi Nelson.
It's 5 laps, but they wanted to go on 3.
Yeah, and Galege, unfortunately, was hit in the side by Levi Nelson, so they're both going to go off track and eventually creep their way on to the grass. I'm seeing some more black flags, which isn't too shocking. Actually, only one more. Jonathan Reber was black flagged. I'm going to guess that's the instigator for the big wreck down in the kink.
It is, and weirdly enough, it was a self-spin, I believe, by Barua last night that led to the huge one in the kink on lap 1 as well. So cold tires plus the kink equals very slippery, I think we've discovered so far in these races here at Road America, both of course by self-spins. So it's definitely one of those corners where you need to carry a lot of speed to stay relevant in the race, but unfortunately it seems that carrying a lot of speed puts you in the crosshairs. The second you come out of it, you can't really go anywhere.
And a few others are facing consequences for that big wreck. Eric Kaufman was given a black flag for did not slow for wreck. So you do have to be careful. Yes, the cautions in iRacing are advisory, but with the live stewards, they don't take kindly to ARCA brakes out here, as it's often called. We'll have to explain that to the non-oval people, but it's it's something that definitely is that put out a bit of a warning amongst the crowd, as they have served justice for that one.
Yeah, I think I called that one when it happened. He just didn't brake going into that, which is also why we get so many wrecks in that place, is people are carrying the speed, and they may be advisory, but the road equivalent, I think, of ARCA brakes would be Takuma Sato brakes, if anyone's an IndyCar fan.
There we go.
Because that man he doesn't even brake for his own mother.
No attack, no chance, you know? So
yeah. What was it we said before the race? It was, if you do not go for a gap, you're not a racing driver.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people take that way too hard to heart, or I believe it was a very famous Austrian driver who once said, brakes are not for slowing down, they're for helping you turn. People took that one the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing was they did forget the context with Senna's quote there, but that's for a debate for another day as we watch the battle
Senna?
here.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. Are you being sarcastic right now?
No, I was attributing it to someone else.
Oh, okay.
Louder.
Well, anyways, I was talking about the going for a gap comment. Anyways,
oh, yeah, sorry, that was it.
Trippette on screen as we watch from the car of Lervold down through the kink. This is for 4th and 5th position. And they're not too far behind more of the lapped cars because of all the drivers coming in to take their spare car. We've got a right mess of lappers in a sprint race, which is certainly not the thing that some of these front runners were looking for.
Yeah, not at all. And this will really throw up the main event because we're going to have people completely out of order, fast cars coming from the back, which will have a fairly big impact, I think. You know, 2nd place is currently at 8th, 9th is down in 18th, 7th is 22nd. And we've got some guys who didn't qualify as well who are towards the front here, so this will make a big difference.
So we ride on board with John Gibson. Remember, started on the front row, got penalized for starting an accident in turn 1. And he's already caught up to Tom Crane in the 864 as they come onto the front stretch. Longest straight on the track. Let's see if this is going to be enough of a slipstream to go by easily.
He's got a chance at this one, but it's maybe if he gives him the corner, we'll have to see. He's got a nose ahead. He should have this.
Coming down into the braking, yes indeed. Nice and easy, smoothly up the inside. He's now into 6th position, but Levi Nelson has been in and out.
Yes, he has. Nelson's come in for his service, but we've also got Trippett, who's in a bit of a dogfight here with Levold. He just got through on a lap car, and this is heating up. Levold has started to really catch up on him here, so we're seeing the onboard here from Levold's car. That's the High Desert Region driver. Started 8th. He's currently running in 4th thanks to our incidents today. But he's really got onto the back here of Trippett. We could see this change hands very soon.
2 more black flags, Levi Nelson and Andy McCune. Not too big of a surprise that we're seeing a number of drivers being sent down pit lane for a drive-through here as we come back to the 13 once again. Still stuck with Trippett just in front of him. They've got Art Schwartz there in the blue and yellow car, but it does look like they're gaining at a rate of knots. How quickly will Trippett overtake him? Or is he going to get held up here? Because they're now approaching the run through Bill Mitchell Bend, and it's hard to go through there side by side.
Yeah, it really is, and it's a bold one, especially as you have the tunnel under Bill Mitchell Bend, which can make that corner a little bit slippery at times with the way the camber changes, so you've got to be careful. But as we come out the final corner, there's a lap car ahead here, which could play a role.
Yeah, that's the one I was wondering if it was going to hold him up at all. And yeah, Trippett is going to be able to get by along with Lervold. Thought maybe he'd get a run, and he does look relatively close, but that's not near enough for a pass. Not sure if we reported it. Drew Kenny also got a black flag for not slowing for that wreck through the kink either. Another good exit for Randy Lervold, just chopping away at those tenths to try and put himself in position to overtake the 444.
Yeah, it really is. And I think we've changed our numbers for this one. We're on 50 minutes, sorry, rather than 10. So it is about 7 laps. We're going to get maybe 8 if we are lucky out of this race here. So we'll have to be careful. But we'll see how this one does play going on to this. There's still time to go with, and you're going to have to make a move soon. If you're Randy Levold, you've got to get on this. There's not a lot of time left.
Yeah, Todd Rosman right now is probably relishing this. He's got nearly about a 2-second lead over Michael Adams up at the front. There he is on your screen now. Started it from that pole position. Hasn't looked back since. Michael Adams at least keeping him honest at this stage, preventing him from having any major slip-ups, but he's going to need to get a lot closer to make this a threat. Question is, I'm seeing 8 laps as well. As long as they get by with a little more than 2 minutes and 6 seconds left, they should have enough time to make it those 2 laps. But if they're less than 2 minutes 6, then this is going to be white flag lap.
Yeah, it will be, and they do have to be a little bit careful with that because it's a hugely long lap, really, when you talk about endurance racing, you run into a time limit. When you cross that line can be a big difference, and if you are the leader with a good amount of time, you can slow down and end the race early if you want to, which means you can run on lighter fuel, but it is a big gamble.
Looks like he's going to make it in time. It's a little close, though. Hopefully they measured that fuel right, because there's no scheduled pit stops, and indeed, plenty of time left there with about 6 or 7 seconds on the clock as he goes by the lapped car, Stacy Iwata. The blue number 4 is going to stay out of the way. Didn't really slow down Todd all that much, although looks like Adams has cut it down to 1.4 seconds now as we come back to Lervold once again. The never-ending battle for 4th place. Edward Trippett sure does love that number 4 today. Question is, can he retain it? Because Randy's been applying a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it really has, and he's getting closer and closer and closer. And if we are on the white flag, I think she mentioned, no, we're not, sir. I think it's one to go for white flag, correct?
Yeah. So we'll get it next
time. He's got time. He's very close now. It could happen.
And I'm sure he's very appreciative that they're not getting it quite yet, giving him a few more chances along these long straights. Need to focus on those corner exits to get himself a good enough run. Back up the hill into turn 6. Blind corner this one underneath the bridge where the car likes to get light. He's right now about 0.5 of a second behind the fourth place driver. And actually, I think this is the closest battle we have on track. That opening lap wreck really spread everybody out.
Yeah, hugely. It did in the sport race last night, so it will always have a big impact on race competitiveness. That's why it's best avoided.
Back to Michael Adams. Ooh, he's cutting down to 1.1. We said it takes some errors from Todd Rosman. And I wouldn't really call it an error, but the lap traffic did him no favors here. Much closer than this, and Michael will start to feel the effects of the slipstream on some of the longer straights. Can Todd just pull off one more solid lap to keep him at arm's length?
He's been doing well so far, but it's just one mistake and he's lost this. This is the territory they're in.
Here we go, as they're going to get there just about in time now, up to the start-finish line with probably about 8 seconds left to go. So white flag is now out. Gibson, by the way, is in 6th place, but he's 20 seconds behind Lervold in that 5th spot. So that's probably about how high we'll see the number 11 wind up here today as we watch our race leader send it down into turn 3 once again. Got a car off. Oh, that's Adams, and he's going to lose 2nd place as Bowers streaks by.
That has a big impact there. Oh, yeah, that will help for Bowers. Unfortunately, the gap though between Trippett and Levold and him is way too big.
Oh, he just went in deep there, it looks like. Just too much speed, and his own unforced error sees him slide down to 3rd. Still going to be a podium finish, most likely, if he can just bring it home. But Bowers 4 seconds back now from Rosman. Even less of a threat on the 16. It's looking good for Todd, at least for now. Lervold hasn't passed Trippett. That stays hot down in 4th and 5th, but also stays about where it was. There you see the gap now, 0.5 of a second.
Yeah, it's really not changed. It's been a flawless drive from Edward Trippett. He has not made a mistake here, and I don't know if he's going to. I think that's what Levold needed, and it will not come.
It's been great there from Trippett. Remember, he came into this round 5th in points, and is trying to catch up to a lot of the guys up front. Bowers he won't catch because he's looking at a 2nd place finish, and Rosman, obviously, with a victory, is going to collect a good haul here today as long as he can keep it on the road, which you see him now down to one of the trickier corners, Canada corner. He breaks it nice and smooth. In fact, the gap has gone down to about 3.8. So, yeah, I'm guessing he's taking this one nice and easy, leaving a margin for error to make sure that he can bring this home on the top spot. The Club West driver out of the final corner and up to the finish line is going to win the sprint race for the challenge class here today at Road America.
Yeah, flawless job by Roseman. He put it on pole and he's brought it home in 1st. It's what he needed. Now he has to repeat it in the future race, and we're in a good position. Bowers, though, is one that's been eye-opening to me. He's been a very good performer, solid, and didn't make a mistake all race.
Trippett held on to 4th over Lervold. It was just about 4.5 tenths at the line between them. Just could not cut that down. We only have 12 cars. They're going to finish on the lead lap. Olin Murphy looks like he's going to be the last of them, with he and Jeff Lashway both having to have been in the pits at some point during this race to either take some repairs or a spare car. But watching the 71 here, comes up onto the main straight. Robert Benson going to get a 9th place, a gain of 10. We were talking about Purdy earlier. He wound up with 16 positions in the end, started from 24th. Very nice job from him. And there we go. Last of them now going to make their way to the finish line. This is going to be the final car to cross Olin Murphy in his Red Bull machine. He actually lost 2 positions, unfortunately, from the start of the race.
Yeah, it can happen, but it's just the heat race, don't forget. There's still plenty of racing to come here.
Indeed. In fact, I believe most of the points are awarded in the feature. 40 minutes for that one. Everybody is automatically sent through. Normally, if they have 2 heats, then it's only going to be 30 and 30 going through. Actually, that's all 60. So, Joe, do your math. That's everybody going through regardless. Continuing to watch him here through the sunset up the hill as we wait for the final number 18 to make his way across the finish line to make this race official. And we can move on into the warm-up and then the feature race, which, don't worry, it's only going to be about 5 minutes between them, so you don't have to wait too long before we get back to the racing action. Nicely done there, Olin. And that means our finishing order sees Todd Rosman take the victory over Scott Bowers, with Michael Adams rounding out the podium. As we mentioned, Edward Trippett withstanding just incredible pressure from behind for pretty much the entire race to take fourth over Randy Lervold, who still is up into fifth position from eighth. So he still had a gain there. John Gibson, though, probably a little bit more frustrated going from second to sixth, as Tom Crane is going to wind up in seventh. David Purdy was eighth, Robert Benson ninth, and DJ Sell is 10th. There's the rest of your field finishing behind them of our 24 starters, and they are all starting to head out for a few of their warm-up laps in this race. That was certainly an exciting one, at least for fourth and fifth, but the rest of the field had all of their excitement spent by the first lap there, Rachel.
Yeah, it seems to have been a recurring trend here at Road America. Ironically, we've been doing a lot of tight, twisty, difficult tracks this season, and we come to one of the biggest, and it's been actually worse than the tight tracks. Maybe people think it's safer.
Yeah, I've kind of had the same impression that maybe people let their guard down during these 2 weeks, and it's maybe what's caused a lot of the incidents that we have witnessed. Although I will say the club guys had a bit of an out with that strange build and the bumpy track, so they have a bit of an excuse on that one. Everybody else, though, has had everything fixed and ready to go. But don't forget, if you want to keep up with things, that we've got a reminder that PCA Sim Racing social media offers in-race reports, breaking news, and announcements through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To subscribe, key in the platform name and add /PCA Sim Racing. Certainly going to be a lot to talk about after each of our classes are done here from today's race, and then they move off to the Red Bull Ring. And this is into the second half of the season, so those that are at the sharp end do need to be wary of some of these incidents that we're seeing, Rachel, because they can't afford it, especially if they've already had a bad week and have to use that drop week.
Yeah, no, they can't, which is going to be something they'll have to pay attention to, and there's points to play for, and you really have to watch that, especially with drop weeks in play. You've used it, you've got to make sure you don't need it again.
Got just about 2.5 minutes left here in the warm-up. And again, that finishing order will determine the starting order for this feature. Those that maybe started a little bit higher up front. I'm looking at guys like Levi Nelson, Jonathan Reber. They're in the latter half of the field on this start. Drew Kenny especially, he started from 7th position in the first race. He's going to be starting from 23rd. That's going to be a rude awakening, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. You've really got to be careful with that, and getting that far down the field, it could be problematic and cause more incidents if you have someone fast trying to get through traffic early.
And let's not forget, there is a pit stop in the feature race as well. Now, the tires can easily last the 40 minutes, but what are they going to do here? If it is a short stop for fuel, is it worth anybody trying to take those tires to get them a little bit fresh? From what I've been told from people over the past week or so since the new build, Rachel, I've heard that it doesn't affect the lap times nearly as much, but the handling does. I wonder, with this being the lowest of the 4 classes, is it worth it just to make sure you've got a solid car and let other people make mistakes and spin to the side while you kind of cruise on by?
I think there's a lot of potential that people could definitely have issues here, and this isn't to say people are worse, but there's potential people could use more tire in this class. Maybe more aggressive driving, perhaps. And that could wear them more. It could make a bigger difference to handling. Now, with the fuel they're taking for a full hour race, it was borderline 3-4 tires with a little bit of lag. 3 tires was pretty safe with the fuel they took. Here, maybe 2. Would you just take fronts? I would, possibly, yes. 2 would be free on their fuel amount.
Interesting. So even with the weight on the back, you feel like the fronts are the way to go with this?
Well, it's going to be the tires that are biting for the corner. They're the ones turning in, so I think it'll give you more bite out of the corner.
Good point. That is an excellent point there. So Lashway, unfortunately, gonna have a little bit of a problem here in the warm-up, as I just saw him have a slight wreck there coming out of turn 5. But right now, this is Robert Galej in the 809, who is going to get a lap on the board for himself. They don't count for anything here. This is all just for the drivers to try and ease themselves over into the race in case they feel like they need some more practice, but it doesn't affect their starting position or anything in the race itself. Looks like that grid is set. So we've once again got Rosman starting on the pole for this one. Scott Bowers in second and Michael Adams in P3. Edward Trippett will be fourth, followed by Randy Lervold in the 5th position. Then it's John Gibson in 6th, Tom Crane in 7th, and David Purdy in P8. Row 5 sees Robert Benson flanked by DJ Sell. And then there's the rest of your 24 cycling on through for the audience to read. Only half of the cars finished on the lead lap in the sprint race, but some of that was due to the big wreck that we saw. Will we see more finish on the lead lap here, despite it being a longer race as the pace car now takes off?
So it does get into the short pace lap we have here, just around this corner, and then it's into some more wild action, I think we'll see as soon as this one goes green.
Yep, and Rosman, who had the pole on the last one, is the same here. This time, though, it's Scott Bowers outside of him. So a little bit of a different friend flanking. Green flag is out. Rosman with another good one. Bowers, not able to really get on the throttle as effectively. So Michael Adams is going to say, thank you very much. I'll take second right away into turn 2. Not so fast, though. Bowers is going to break deep into the first turn, gets a better exit, and he's back at a P2.
He certainly is there. That's going to be a bigger jump for him there, of course, to get himself into a better start for this. But it's already been a big jump by Rosman. He's already cleared them, and it's looking like it's about 0.8 of a second.
Looks like lessons were learned, because I didn't see any major offs through the first 3 corners there as they come down the Moraine sweep. Great run here for Rosman. He's already about half a second ahead of Bowers, so he can't do anything from that second spot. No change for the top 5 or 6 in the field. Anybody else behind? I have to go all the way down to about 15th or 16th before they start swapping positions into the 5th corner. So maybe everybody's trying to get in it for the long haul here with this 40-minute race and wait until things settle in before they start attacking.
I think maybe the smarter move after that first lap. Oh, never mind. As we just had a bit of incident with Art Schwartz back in 16th. We won't show this one for you, but lost it himself coming out of 6th. Then came back across the track because he was on the grass, couldn't really stop, and was collected by, I believe, that was the 809 machine of Gahelas.
Art was very slow to get back on the track. I think the car, it looks like the car has a meatball flag, so he is going to be forced to come in and pit regardless. It is limping very badly. Meanwhile, we're back up in 2nd place with Bowers on your screen, being chased by the green car of Adams. Oh, Drew Kenny with problems again, and it's through the kink. Involved somebody else. That was Jack Stevenson, it appears.
Yeah, it's water involved in that as well there, as he's off the track there, and that back straight is best see it later here at least. It's just a tricky track, I think, and a very unforgiving one. This is one of those more old school circuits, don't forget, where you really do not have a lot of room to make a mistake.
Yeah, it looks like Iwata was the one that kind of started it, unfortunately, and poor Drew was collected, just couldn't get out of the way. Stevenson also just couldn't avoid the wreck as it was happening with how blind that corner is. Tim Schrock in 21st position, up 3 spots. He started from last on the fields, and he's got Robert Galej just in front of him in the 809. So we could have yet another before this is said and done. We're going to come back to John Gibson. He was trying to make his recovery drive in the last race, and thankfully for him, he's got this entire 2nd race to try and get back into it. He's right now just ahead of Randy Lervold, who we already know is a bit of a dog out there, unwilling to let go as soon as he is caught up to someone that he's racing with.
Yeah, it really is, and gotta give people room here. We've seen these cars get a little slidey as well. This is something I've not seen really before. Maybe it's something since the last build, but I've seen a few more cars breaking loose than we have in the past in this series. Possibly the car.
The nice thing is that from what I'm hearing from drivers is it's a little easier on these new tires to catch those slides. So maybe that's part of it there, that we're seeing slides and less spins, that they're feeling the car breaking loose and are able to gather it back together in time. As this fight here essentially is between Adams, Trippett, Gibson, and Lervold. So this is all for third position that they've got this train going. We go a little bit farther down the order, looking at Jeff Lashway with David Purdy behind him. And David Purdy, we know, gained a lot of positions. Is he going to wind up slowly handing them back due to a lack of pace on this one? He's only lost one so far.
Yeah, only lost one, but it could still keep going. It depends if he can stop the hemorrhage at this point. And he's holding it for so far. We have seen some guys who've moved forward quite well. Crane is maintaining where he's currently running in the field, as is, we mentioned Purdy, of course. He's only down one, like you said. But up from 24th, that's a big gain.
Lashway actually just took that spot from Purdy, that 8th position into Canada Corner this last lap. So, and is Trippett going to get overtaken by Gibson? Looks like that might be the case. Lervold couldn't do it, but Gibson can, and he is now into 4th. He's about 4.5 seconds behind the leader. That's not impossible to run down, as that looks like a bit of side-by-side there between Lashway and Crane, but Crane will successfully defend and retain 7th.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think he can for now. We'll have to see how he can play with that one, but looking through the field at the moment, we're seeing a lot more closer racing here. A couple of black flags we mentioned, Schwartz and Iwata picking up ones there, as race control deals with the few incidents we've had here. A lot less big ones, a few smaller ones, which is probably preferable, I think, although I prefer none, as we got a lot of pairs racing.
Yeah, certainly seeming to have little couplets around the track. I wonder if the slipstream is helping that. In fact, Bauer's probably appreciating having it, because it's keeping him within about 6 to 8 tenths on Rosman, which is definitely close enough to make sure that that 16 is sweating a little bit. We look at the 917's, what I think is a pretty cool little paint scheme on that Porsche. Something happened. Yeah, I just saw it the same time you did.
Lost it, slid it coming out to Billy Mitchell, and spun it out, went round, and slapped the outside wall. Unfortunate for him there. Solo incident again, another spin.
Not enough damage on the car that he needs to come in right now. He will eventually need a pit stop. Let's take a look at it. This is a really tricky corner. I always thought this is kind of one of those sleeper corners that isn't given enough credit.
It is. It's a very tricky one, to be honest. I always see it as one of those corners that's more challenging than people give it credit, because it's a off-camber cresting corner, and they're always tricky.
Who was that just hitting in the kink there into the wall? That was a massive, massive slap. You're hearing that was Kaufman, excuse me. And then Kenny spinning out and then taking a tow. Maybe just thinking today's not been great. Let's just end it a little bit early, because I'm being a bit of a problem out on the track. I don't know if that's exactly what he's thinking, but certainly had the looks of it to me. Down into the braking, Michael Adams back out there, and John Gibson is right behind him. Now, wait, wasn't Gibson 4 seconds away from the leader? What happened to John here?
It's tough to say. He has lost a lot of time in that one, but it's unfortunately, this will happen in motor racing sometimes.
He went off in turn 3, all on his own.
Yeah, that's what we saw earlier in the background. I didn't know who it had been, unfortunately, but yeah, Gibson just went wide, lost it, and didn't have the traction to turn. A little into the hot, I think.
So down to 6th he goes once again. He's got the speed from the qualifying of the sprint race from what we've seen, just can't seem to keep it together for the entirety of the race itself. Back to Bowers once again. These two are definitely pushing the pace here because Trippett is about 7 seconds behind them. We're only on lap 4, so they've certainly been dropping the rest of the field. And I imagine Bowers is going to continue to push hard to make sure that Rosman cannot lift on the pace. He has to keep his foot down for much of this one unless he can get a mistake out of the 9:17. Starting lap 5 now, and we are about a quarter of the way through. So pit window probably going to be opening in the next lap or two.
Yeah, I think it will be. That's the kind of ballpark we're looking at here in terms of time, but we know it's always that middle 10 or so in the race. I think they're going to split this one evenly.
Yeah, I got to imagine so. Art Schwartz is in pit lane, checking to see if that was a black flag of some sort. And no, I'm not seeing that. So this is, actually might be serving one because he did get one earlier, but he is coming into pit lane, which to me implies it is not a black flag because usually those are drive-throughs. Todd Rosman, well, things have gotten a lot closer now. Bowers in these first few corners has cut down, but he misses the apex at 6, and he hands that time right back.
Yeah, he does, and we're going to see these kind of back and forth errors really changing how the time is played in this race. And it's surprising, though, but we've got a real fight for this lead. We didn't see it in the heat.
Remember, Bowers qualified 3rd, went up to 2nd in the sprint race, has now started from 2nd and has been there since, hassling on Todd Rosman. So kind of makes me wonder if Scott's got pretty good longer run pace here to try and keep in the threat of things as we get a battle down into turn 5 between Reber, Sell, Lidback, and Galej, along with Jack Stevenson, but Stevenson is a lap down. But this is a fight for the 13th spot, lucky number 13 there for the 147, as we hop on board with Robert briefly.
Yeah, we are indeed there, and a lot of evolution in this race from what we've seen so far. I really liked how this has been dynamically different from what we saw in sport or the other classes, and so far they're obviously it's been a turbulent week. We had the issue with the track, and then we have people adapting to changes. Of course, there's been a lot of changes to the vehicles in general, and I think the battle of the lead here has been the first we've had this week, correct? Well, this round, I should say.
So much has happened. I need to go back and look and...
I know we didn't have it in sport, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So seeing it at least once this week, a really good close contest here for the win, I think that's going to be pretty important. We've seen people close, but never really challenging too hard. DJ Sell had a bit of an off, and he's gone down from 13th to 15th on this lap alone. He must have lost one to Reber as well early on in the lap. So he'll want to try and get that back together and clean things up. We check out Levi Nelson here in 9th position. No, 8th. He's up to 8th here. That's Tom Crane behind him. So those two have switched around at the start of this lap. And boy, is Levi running away quickly. He's already got 0.8 of a second in just what are effectively 2 corners, and even though it's 1 and 3, and there as they come down into the braking for turn 5 now. So Nelson didn't like where he was, has decided I don't want to be held up anymore, and is now set off to try and catch up to Jeff Lashaway. We watch from Tom Crane, and yeah, look at how much distance has been put between them. Yeah, it has been a big change there. Crane's positioning is now wildly opened up from where it was, and Lashaway gains from him up 4 spots, so he's going somewhere right now. The gaps in terms of time is it's going to be interesting, I think, here, because he's in range to really start to push towards the likes of Gibson, but Gibson's been holding strong in 6th. He's not gained, though, compared to what he had last race.
No, well, he did gain, and then he lost it all. If you remember back in turn 3,
yes.
Made his own mistake. He's catching up to Michael Adams in the meantime. Let's see if Adams will allow him an opportunity. Rosman's not giving an opportunity to Bowers here, as you saw that that gap had opened up to about 1.2. But coming up the front stretch once again, Gibson, he's going to feel a bit of that slipstream at 1.1 seconds behind Adams, but he's certainly not going to be able to tow up to that rear bumper by the braking of turn 1. Beautiful rust orange sky here in Wisconsin with the sun nearly below the horizon. In fact, might already be below the horizon now at this stage. As in the other races, we saw them pretty much get into complete darkness by the checkered flag, and likewise, it'll be the same here.
Yeah, it was really close the last couple of times, and that does change how the racing conditions were, because, of course, it is surprisingly more common than you realize that people are using shadows or where certain thing looks as a braking reference, and as the sun moves, that will change more rapidly, so you're going to see a big difference. And we can already start to see the effect of the lights. You can start to see them just about on the track in front of the cars, and it will really shift how these guys are seeing the track, and it will, I think, affect people's braking zones.
Yeah, I was always told that it's a poor idea to try and base it on a shadow unless it's a very, very short race there. And 40 minutes, well, the shadows are gone, unfortunately. We had another car off there. Was that a Wada once again? Yeah. Unfortunately, the 4 is off track, so he's been having a bit of a stinker for him, unfortunately. Not going to have much to show for this as they head down into the kink once again. This has gobbled up a lot of cars today. They've had a second chance here with the feature. Not going to eat them up this time. Look at Gibson back in that rainbow car, just sticking with Adams. But it does seem like before that battle happens that Lervold is finding Michael a little bit uncomfortably close.
Yeah, I think he is, and he's really trying to put a pressure on this one. And it's much more of an attacking pressure that we saw with Lervold and Trippett last time in the heat race. He is much, much more. Oh, and a big mistake there! Adams goes sailing through as Lervold falls under the pressure and runs wide in the final corner.
That is a big shame after all the pressure he was putting on others. He can't handle it himself. And now Gibson has one less car to try and overtake. He's into the top 5. Michael Adams just in front of him, but Adams slightly defending into the braking zone. He doesn't quite trust John.
Oh, trust issues in race cars? Never. That doesn't happen. But we'll see how they do this. But it's definitely opened up for a more interesting run on the track here. Gibson Adams could be decisive.
Gibson certainly wants these spots. He's lost a lot of time now. He's 16 seconds behind the leader. In fact, if he does overtake Adams, he's going to have to make up about 3 seconds to catch, Trippett there in the 444, which is possible, but he's going to have to really push to get up there. Michael Adams, in the meantime, trying to stay smooth, not fall victim to that simple error that Lervold did coming out of the final corner. So far, so good, but that's only about half a lap that we've seen him have to put up with this.
It is, and, wow, it can make a little difference. Some people react at different times. Some people you can keep going for a while. Some people it will happen almost immediately when you put the pressure on, so it's going to have to be balanced out, and you've got to work out how much someone can take before, because applying pressure can also put you at more risk of making a mistake too. That should really be considered. People often don't realize that it's not just them you're putting at risk of making a mistake, it's you too.
Olin Murphy up 3 spots here now. Remember, he finished in 12th, last one on the lead lap. And right now, he's into 9th spot. We've only lost about 4 cars from the lead lap, 20 of them still out there rolling. Sadly, David Purdy's not looking like he's going to be able to repeat his impressive charge that we saw from before. So Olin, now that he's past Tom Crane, Levi Nelson is up the road, but it's about 8.5 seconds. That's going to take a real effort to try and catch up to his rival in front of him, unless he makes a mistake. And the Martini car of Tim Schrock is unfortunately not on the black stuff like he should be. That's out of turn 6, and he'll get it back onto the circuit quickly. Scott Bowers, though, it was up to about 1.2 once again. It's cut to 0.4 of a second now. Bowers has been yo-yoing back and forth, and he's putting Roz under a little pressure, under braking. He gains down into turn 5, just can't make an overlap, though.
No, that's the problem. You have to follow through with a move here as, oh, hang on a second. Adams and Gibson going for this into 5. Good defensive line here by Adams. Can Gibson get the crossover? He's going for the outside still. Okay. He maintains the outside move. I'd have probably tried to set up a crossover, but he just gives it to him. Interesting. I did not expect him to give it to him.
I wonder if once he saw him start to nose ahead, he figured it wasn't worth trying to fight it. He probably is aware that Gibson's a pretty fast driver, because I think this is the second time he's had to overtake him in this race. So Gibson's
That's an easy
now...
defend, though. That is a really easy defend. You have the inside for the next two corners. You can hold that.
Yeah, I didn't say it was a smart move. I was just saying I'm wondering if that's what he was thinking out there. Levi Nelson, in the meantime, in 8th position, sees Jeff Lashway in front of him. Jeff was a little higher up the order earlier on, but he is still looking good. He's up 4 from where he began, starting from 11th place. Can he hold Nelson behind him down through the kink? Getting close to that halfway marker as well of 20 minutes for this race. Great run from Levi, looking for what's going to be the inside into Canada corner. Outbreaks him. Will he make the turn? Yes, he does. As that happens, Scott Bowers went by Rosman because Todd is now in pit lane.
That'll make a difference, but this is the scheduled stop, let's not forget. I want to see what Rosman does here, actually. I want to see if he takes 2 tires, or any at all. Because for 30 minutes, it's under that real profit margin, but 2 could still work.
Absolutely.
Does that car go on the jacks?
Let's see. Nope. It's going to go up immediately.
Oh,
he missed his pit stall. Oh, and it took him a long time to notice that. That might be the win out of his hands unless he really has some extra underneath the hood there. Was, God, what, about 3 or 4 seconds that he sat there stationary?
Yep, at least that. And if he was taking tires, he isn't now. So you realize that mistake. Yeah, that's a whopper of a time loss. He was close with Bowers. This could really change things.
Yeah, so Scott, he might not even be aware of what happened there, but hopefully he's got someone on the box telling him push, push, push. You have a good advantage now if you can break the slipstream and keep your rival from coming out behind you close enough that he can catch you back up. So as we watch Gibson ahead of Adams, hasn't been able to shake that 9-11. He gets promoted to 3rd, but these guys are not going to be able to overtake Todd Rosman most likely. Because they were well behind, unless it was truly much worse than we anticipated there. 49.3 seconds cone to cone for Rosman. So keep that number in mind. We'll come back to that when we start to see other drivers pit in, which should be soonish. We've only got about 9 minutes left in the pit window.
Yeah, I think that was a tragically long time. I was thinking he was fueling when he was sat there. He was there that long. So it could have been an unsuspected development, I think.
Definitely not one that we anticipated coming, but hopefully the drivers have been looking out for all of the unexpected things out there. In the meantime, they do want to push, but if you're struggling to consistently go faster, do you know how to find another 10th off your lap time? Join our very own physicist, Nikki Chan, to learn all about driving techniques, car setup, telemetry, analysis, and more via YouTube videos on lasttenth.com. Nikki is also available for one-on-one coaching and custom setup sessions. Contact him on Discord for a trial session now, so you can squeeze that last 10th off your lap time. Last 10th, better car, better driver. Right now, it looks like we got a couple more pitters, Tom Crane and Olin Murphy, so that's about mid-pack that we're seeing them come in. Bowers continues on by. So he won't respond to the pit for Rosman. Trippett doesn't. Gibson, Adams, Lervold. Yeah, a lot of drivers up towards the front aren't really swayed by the 16 pitting relatively early compared to the traditional strategy of run the fuel dry. Lid back here in the 10th spot, up 12 from where he began, and sizing up Jonathan Reber for maybe a 9th.
Well, there we go. We'll have to see how this one will go. Up to 9th, it's a good move for him, but pit cycling may have actually even changed this one. Crane was in with somebody else. We'll see if that one plays. Rosman, though, will still be in 8th until things cycle through, so we're looking for the leaders to start pitching again here. We're looking for Bowers, Trippett, Gibson, Adams, Revold, Lashway, Sherwood, and they could be in next time, I think, looking at where this is going.
A little bit of side-by-side down into turn 5 there, but I think that was lapping Iwata. Lidback chasing on Reber. We come back to Rosman. What's even more frustrating, I'm sure, is it sounds like from what we're being told, Rosman has not had a single incident so far. He hasn't had an off-track anything in these first 11 laps. He's been spotless except for that one little mistake. Ooh, and that's never fun. A car blinking out in front of you through the kink, and they haven't come back for a long time. Let's really hope that he doesn't reappear inside of the number 16's car.
Yeah, that would definitely be an unfortunate situation to occur. One you definitely don't want to have happen, but we'll see where he does. Keeping my eyes, though, on where these guys are running. I don't think Bowers hasn't gone for anything yet. Neither has Gibson, Trippett, or Adams, so it's looking cozy.
Hearing that Levi Nelson is another one being given a black flag recently, so he'll have to come and serve that one, too. Down along the Moraine sweep. This is on board with Trippett and Michael Adams. This is the fight for third position. And he's close enough that he could maybe try and distract that 911 car, but he's having none of it. He's not going to waver, holding on to the racing line here. Down to 15 minutes left to go, so about 7 or 8 laps left.
Yeah, certainly are. That will definitely mean we're running into shorter time here. But we'll see how this one plays out. There's still good room for these guys to really have a very much different race than we've seen so far. We saw that much change in this amount of time in the heat alone. And these guys are still pretty close to each other, so I'll be excited to see what these guys will do when it comes to time. But there's not a lot of room left for the pit cycle, at least.
Yeah, and especially after the pit cycle, if you want that position, you're going to have to do it on track. So will anybody get feisty to try and take a few more points away here? As for the championship, Bowers showing why he is leading up to now. Yes, he didn't win the sprint race, but again, the features where most of the points are handed out. Where is, okay, Mike Adams sits in third right now. Oh, and Bowers is actually in. Bowers has, reached pit lane.
Gibson is staying out. Trippett, though, and Adams are both pitting in. Adams ahead of Trippett here, too.
Okay, but the car we want to watch is where does Rosman wind up after his extra long stop, and what's the stop times going to be looking like cone to cone for all of our other drivers. There's Todd through Bill Milcher Bend right now. Bowers about 6 seconds into his pit stop. He's waiting for the fuel to finish. I didn't see him go up on the jacks, and it's about 13.5 seconds. 45.1 cone-to-cone time. Rosman was a 49.3, but Bowers does come out in a little bit of traffic. Lashway is in that green car just ahead of him.
Yeah, we'll see if he, really good exit there by Adams. He's really gained a lot of time, I think, there on the road and Trippett. They're not out anywhere as close as they even came in. So worse stops for them. Where, however, is Rosman going to come out in all of this?
Well, right now, it does look like he's about 7 seconds back from Bowers. I think it was it 14 that Bowers had a lead over the next car? I'm trying to remember how much of a gap he built. That question will be answered probably soon enough. Out through turn 5. This Jeff Lashway situation for Bowers isn't really helping him out. He's got the arrow wake of that number 1 car in front of him. And it's also seemed like for some reason in these Road America races that passing has been a little more harder than you'd think.
Draft has been less powerful, I noticed, in the last couple of races. It's not had the impact we thought it would. And it's, I think, really affected how people can pass. There's got to be mistakes here. Or they need a mistake to pass because they're just not getting the suck up.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That the drivers kind of need someone to have a little hiccup out there to really get the opportunity they need. It's possible. You just need some help. And right now, Bowers needs help overtaking Lashway. He is screaming for Jeff to pit in right now so that he can gain back in on Gibson, who's 15 seconds up the road from the pair of them. Make about 13, honestly. And there they go up the main straight, as indeed Lashway will release him.
Yeah, Bauer's in, and I'm pretty sure here we've had some mega laps by Roseman, because he's going to take the lead back again.
I don't know that he will, because Bowers has already stopped. So
Roseman
Bowers
has,
should.
remember?
Yeah,
I thought he was in. Oh, sorry, no, I'm completely.
Yeah, that was Gibson and Lashway.
my brain is everywhere tonight. I thought that was actually Bowers. So, that's a bit of a gap then.
Yeah, it's 6.5 seconds between Rosman and Bowers, and we're looking at 11 minutes left to go. So that's actually about a second a lap. Considering Scott was keeping Todd honest for much of the first part of the race, I doubt there's that much of a speed difference between P1 and P2 that he can run that down as we continue to watch Gibson give us a lot of the action during this Road America Challenge race.
Yeah, it really will. And we need to see if that will evolve going towards the end of this. 10 minutes on the clock. And that's a big gap here. 7 seconds. If both Bowers and Rosman have stopped, I think that could be a big difference.
I certainly think it should be able to as well. In fact, I'm seeing everyone has now taken their pit stops, their scheduled pit stops. So the whole field is set and ready to run it to the end, as long as they put enough fuel in. That was the 7 car? That's Jason Sherwood. So he was the lap down car that we saw there coming back on out of the hurried downs. And meanwhile, coming through the carousel, still chasing Gibson. Gibson +2 in this race. That's not bad, just not phenomenal, especially considering he qualified on the front row for the sprint race itself. He's going to want to shake trip it here and just try to focus on his own race.
Yeah, I think he has to at this point. I just don't think there's really the potential to change how that's running at the moment. So stick with what he can get and try not to push too hard and make an error trying to go after something that might not be achievable.
Got to race within your limits. And he's got to do it for 9.5 minutes, actually. So trip it using that pull on John Gibson up the front stretch. Not expecting him to be able to attack coming into turn 1 from how far back we're seeing currently, but look at how little light is now in the sky and how much is emitting from their headlamps there on the cars. Down into turn 3 under braking. Any gain here for Trippett? Certainly looks pretty strong on the way in, but it's the way out that pays more dividends at a track like this.
Yeah, it does. And I think the advantage will be there for him, but this is starting to get a bit darker than we had in the last race, actually. With 8 minutes remaining on the clock, this could still go into almost twilight at this stage, and we'll have to see how they drive with that, because I don't think they were expecting this one going into this round.
Word that Bowers took tires and Rosman didn't, adding insult to injury. So Bowers is going to have a little bit extra grip, as well as having the track position over Rosman. And that makes it almost a slam dunk in my mind's eye about taking home the win, as long as he keeps the car on the black stuff from here on out. And with less than a quarter of it to go, we've already seen that he knows how to handle these cars and the situations out here in Wisconsin. We are down to 15 drivers left on the lead lap. Remember, I mentioned half of them were lapped because of an early wreck in the sprint race. We might wind up about the same here in the feature.
Yeah, I think we could. And it's... that margin really does have a lot of back and forth. I think that with a gap at 7 seconds, Bowers could afford to change that lap number.
Stacey Awada down in 22nd, getting the Dory Award this time. Although his Purdy, no, you got to give that one to Purdy. He's behind him even 2 laps down. Both of them are 2 laps down, but racing on opposite ends of the track. So not really expecting that to develop into something too thrilling, but you never know. They could give us a lot of fun there with nothing on the line. Jack Stevenson running for the 116 team is about 9 seconds off DJ Sell. So he also is lacking the agency to try and bring himself up the order. He's just kind of cycling through. We'll go to Art Schwartz now in the number 82. So he comes around the final bend as he's being chased by the lapped car of Tom Crane, and also trying to somehow catch up to Olin Murphy, who is also not on the same lap. No, Art Schwartz is in, actually.
Yes, he is. That will be one for him, and a very late stop there by that. Unless it is for a penalty, which it could be.
Oh, that's a good point.
We'll see if it's just a drive-through.
I hadn't thought about that. I don't see one next to his name, and I didn't think it cleared it until he exited the pits. So I don't think it's a black flag, but he may have taken his spare car earlier and accidentally filled up, so he's able to go that little bit longer than a lot of his rivals. I'm watching to see if he takes off himself.
It was a fuel stop. Yeah, no, that wasn't a stop and go. It would have been a drive-through if it was a penalty. So, yeah, that was just a later stop because he did get the spare car.
Okay, then. Last couple minutes of racing in Road America. We've seen some incredible tracks this season. Started off at Road Atlanta, went up to Canada for Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Had a daring battle, not with the other cars, but with the track itself at Detroit Belle Isle, and now they've rocked up. Oh, well, excuse me, I missed one in there. They went to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Can't believe I forgot that. And then Road America to round out the first 5 of the weeks here for this series. Red Bull Ring and a classic Daytona International Speedway will round it out. And coming around the corner here, this is a driver that's had a lot of action on screen, maybe didn't want so much. Robert Gallege there, who's up 7 from where he finished in the last race. He's going to try and see if he can get himself a little bit farther up. What about Kaufman in the 21? Kind of no man's land for him. 7 seconds ahead of the car behind. Oh, which is Reber, who's had a wreck. Reber coming through the kink is facing the wrong way. He's got to get turned around sooner. He's going to get disqualified here.
Yeah, he is. That's unfortunate for them, but that will occur, so they'll have to take advantage of that. Unfortunately, that's not how you want to end a race this close to the end.
He did get disqualified. He drove backwards too far. That's not with the stewards. That is automatic. So Reber's learned a very hard lesson. Yeah, he was in a bit of a pickle there, but at some point you got to try and learn to do that whip turn and get that car around in time. Michael Adams, though, now sitting in 5th place and trying to overtake on Trippett, who defends hard there, coming into the carousel. He'll hold him behind, but he is in no mood to give up this 4th place. Like I said before, he liked it in the previous race. He likes it in this one.
Absolutely does, and this has been a really interesting race in terms of how it's developed. The gap, though, mistake by Roseman, though, that has to be this talk of the race. I did not expect that to happen. Hopefully we'll get to talk to him during the interviews. I want to find out what went through his head there, because how do you miss a not in your box properly by that much, for that long?
Not paying close enough attention, I think. Maybe it was just fiddling with some things inside the car, because you do have a lot of switches and gauges and things that you can check on while you are running down pit lane here in the sim. Everything that can be read on the real car, you can read in iRacing, or alter if you can alter things in the car in real life. But these drivers, at least with the fixed setup, I should clarify. Anyways, looks like Scott Bowers has 2 laps to go here, with just about total pitch darkness now out on the track.
Yeah, it nearly is. It's not quite that much, but it's getting closer. A couple of guys getting out of the way of some of these cars, but at this point, with I saw a bit of a blink there by Bowers, without, it's not total darkness, but it's dark enough that it definitely feels like night, but it's drivable without the track lighting here. They're still going to have a lot of visibility on the track there for the drivers, but it's getting to the point where I'm glad they're going to be stopping soon. I think they will be.
I know I would be. It's fun as it can be to race at night sometimes. It also can be a little bit tricky, and They seem to be prone to those mistakes, especially tracks that aren't lit like this one, where they don't have any lights anywhere around the track other than what's on your car. Tom Crane, who sits just inside the top 10, is harassing the 21 of Eric Kaufman. They come down onto the Moraine sweep themselves, but that's not a good enough exit there for Tom. He's going to have to try again another day. He did get overtaken by Eric recently, so he's going to have to get on his horse and get going. White flag is out for Scott Bowers. A P2 and a P1 is going to be a handy haul of points. It's not going to be a perfect one like what we saw last round with Scott Bowers at Indianapolis, but it is going to be another huge haul to help him get away in the points and try to stretch from Michael Adams, who is only looking at a 5th place right now.
Yeah, I mean, Roseman's gained some lap time, just under 2 seconds the last few, but it can't make a difference here. 6.9 seconds last time by the line, so he really is not going to recover this one, which is sad from getting 2 firsts, but it's his own doing, unfortunately, in that circumstance, unless something happened that we don't know about, which I'm sure we'll find out. I've been surprised by the amount of solo car incidents here and little moments. This has really been a difficult track for this round.
Yeah, not the one that we expected, because we harped on the difficulty of the first 3 track selections so much early in Series 9 and figured then it would be on to more traditional fare and drivers can settle in, but they have proven us a little bit wrong here in these last 2 weeks. Bowers down and around the carousel. He's got a gap of 6 seconds. Rosman, to his credit, has cut it down a little bit. It's just too little too late, unfortunately. His mistake, I think, really kind of decided this one for him. If he hadn't done that, I think Todd probably still would be fighting for the lead with this 917 car.
I think he would. I really think he would. I think it would have been a lot closer and more interesting, but sometimes these are the breaks.
Up and over Bill Mitchell Bend. Scott Bowers, second in the sprint race. Second, actually, no, I think he qualified 3rd in the in qualifying. Yeah, he gridded up in 3rd, finished 2nd, and now he's going to finish 1st. There you go, each step of the podium, and celebrations for Scott Bowers taking a win in the feature here at Road America.
Yeah, a really fantastic race tonight. Lots of drama, lots of action. It's been fantastic, and I do want to emphasize, while we've had accidents in this race, there's not really been anything malicious that's occurred so far. It's all been little missteps, and this does continue to be one of the cleanest and most honourable series I think I've seen. I've seen more people voluntarily give places back in PCA sim racing than any other series.
Absolutely. The sportsmanship is huge to these guys, and that is all around from top to bottom, challenge to pro. By the way, I want to give a huge pat on the back to John Gibson. He did wind up getting onto the podium here. So he didn't quite make it back to 2nd where he started the sprint race, but I like that never say die attitude. And Trippett did wind up in 4th. Boy, we gotta ask him if we ever get to talk to him about that number 4 thing, because certainly seems to be following him a lot today, at least. Last few down through the carousel, I asked whether or not we'd have more finish on the lead lap. At this rate, it looks like the answer might be yes. Eric Kaufman in 13th is the last one to be crossing the line, most likely.
We get them across here and wrap this thing for the night. Kaufman, yeah, get a rougher qualifying, I think, or through the heat race. There's a much more successful run here tonight, up 7 from where he started. I think the race turned out to have filtered back to how it began quite well. Most people ending up really where they began in this thing.
As the last few come up to cross the start-finish line, is there going to be change for position here? Well, somebody is off the course. That's a lapped car. That's DJ Sell. And thankfully, that's not going to wreck anybody else, it appears, as Galais is going to finish inside the top 10. McCune just couldn't catch him in time. And then, Kaufman. Oh, no, excuse me. He didn't get his position. At first, I thought he did. He crosses over in 13th. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Brake a little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way. Welcome back to Road America, the last race of our Road America runs here for Series 9 and the Porsche Cup Association, or the Porsche Club of America, excuse me, has Scott Bowers with the win here today. Todd Rosman is going to finish in second, with John Gibson making an excellent recovery after a bit of a rough start to his day, ending him in third. Edward Trippett will be fourth position as Michael Adams will be in fifth place. And then you've got Randy Lervold in sixth position. Jeff Lashaway, nice gain of 5 spots for him as Olin Murphy finished in eighth, Tom Crane ninth, and Robert Gallege going to round out your top 10. 9 spots gained for that 809 car. That was a very good job. There's the rest of your field here today. Had a couple DNFs in there, but thankfully it wasn't nearly as wild as what we saw at the start of the sprint race here today. In the meantime, Scott Bowers, who went from a perfect race last time out at Indianapolis, didn't have a perfect one this time, but still went from third to second to first. Scott, it was a steady climb, and eventually you wound up at the top.
Yeah, I was having some technical issues, so I wasn't able to get some practice laps in because I couldn't hear any audio. So luckily, I was able to figure out everything at the last minute, but it kind of put me a little stressed. It made me a little stressed there to start off the race.
So if it weren't for a mistake from Rosman, we anticipated it was going to be likely that you two were going to still be battling after those pit stops. But Rosman, unfortunately, missed his pit stall. If it wasn't for that, do you think you would have had a harder time trying to take the victory today?
Oh, absolutely. I was pushing as hard as I could. And there was just, even with the draft, I was not able to get around him in that early part of the race. So I was hoping that pit strategy would come into play. I didn't know that he actually overshot his pit stop. But yeah, I was, I guess his bad luck was my good fortune.
Now, in the first 3 races, we kind of hyped up that they're very tricky tracks. They're very punishing circuits that we began on, and kind of made a big deal out of it. Then suddenly we come to the latter half of Series 9 and we figured, oh, well, these are more regular tracks. And yet pretty much every class in these 2 weeks saw a lot of problems. What do you think caused Road America to be such a stickler, a thorn in the side of a lot of these drivers?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I had difficulties too. I think when iRacing updated the latest set, I think that kind of threw things around a little bit. So people had to readjust, braking points and lines and things like that. But yeah, I knew this was going to be a tricky track tonight. It's very technical, but it's got a rhythm to it. And I think also the sun setting, I kind of shocked a lot of people too. We were only 40 minutes. Some of those races were an hour long.
Yeah, it definitely got pretty dark out there, but you handled it well. Congratulations, Scott, on another victory.
Thank you. I just want to say a shout out to my brother watching in Michigan and my mother-in-law in Connecticut. Thanks for cheering me on. Appreciate it.
Scott Bowers taking the win in the feature here today. Up next, I do believe that Rachel has caught up with Todd Rosman.
I do indeed. Todd, busy race tonight, of course. First on the grid, first in the heat, and then second in the main event. Amazingly consistent performance, but I think the question we're going to ask is what happened in that pit stop?
Well, I'm going to blame it on the pace car pushing me off a little bit to the left. I missed my pit box, and I didn't realize it in time, so I lost so much time in there. And then I think I shorted myself a little bit on fuel.
So it was just a case of, why has it not started yet? Come on, fuel. Sort of moment.
Yeah, it was kind of, and then also I looked up and said, "You're too far left." I was like, "Oh no!" And so reverse, forward. Like, am I in the spot? Am I not in the spot? Just start filling the car.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is one of the things that will happen. Yeah, still amazingly consistent finishes tonight, and it seemed to be a slippier track tonight than people expected. A lot of loose cars. How was it for you?
Yeah, it was pretty slick. I know that everybody had a little challenge with the sun going down, but yeah, it was a little slick. We just got an update, so everybody was trying to feel this car out with all the changes that went on over the last couple of weeks. So, it was kind of up in the air on what we were going to do, but our times were pretty good at the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, anybody like to give a shout out to or thank for this?
Oh, I want to thank or do a shout out really to all my new EMS providers that just graduated. I know a few of them are watching tonight, and then family, and I just hope everybody has a really good holiday. Thanks for broadcasting.
I have one question before you go.
Absolutely.
You working Christmas Day?
No, I'm retired. So, but I know a lot of people that will be, unfortunately.
Well, our thoughts do go out to them having to work on the holidays so that you don't have to. But thanks for joining us, Todd, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
And then finally, we've got John Gibson, who wound up third in the feature race, but it wasn't that way earlier on because John, the first lap of the first race, the sprint, in the very first corner, you cop a penalty and you find yourself sent down pit lane. That had to have been a little bit frustrating, and yet you never gave up and you wound up in third in the feature. Tell us about, how you got there.
Yeah, it was a little surprising. I thought I just missed my braking marker there and tapped, I think it was Todd in front, but got the black flag, just said, okay, I gotta put it down and see what I can do. So was glad to get back up to sixth in the heat race. And then really I felt kind of like I earned this one because I made a couple of mistakes in the main even where when the light changed, I missed a braking marker and then I made a mistake in the pit, but was able to get back and just never gave up. Like you said, it was a fun race.
It looked like fun. You also got a little bit lucky because in that sprint, they had a huge wreck on the very first lap as well that you just happened to be ahead of. So when you emerged from your penalty, were you a bit shocked to see you were still in 10th?
Yeah, it was. I guess that was part of the incident that I created when they checked up behind me. I guess that happened. So I was a little bit lucky, and it was nice to be able to at least get a decent starting position going back into the main.
I can assuage your fears. I believe the big wreck was in the kink and not caused by what happened in the first corner. But I mean, regardless, that was something that definitely impressed us, seeing you charge your way back through. What are your feelings on Red Bull Ring next time out? Kind of a similar track with a lot of long straights going into heavy braking zones.
I like the Red Bull Ring. I think the track's got a lot of flow. I haven't driven it in a while, but I'm looking forward to practicing the next couple of weeks and really trying to learn the track again. So I like it. It's a fun track.
Well, again, congratulations on a third in the feature, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you more.
Thank you very much. I look forward to it.
John Gibson in the number 11 there on the podium here today for Road America. Join us, though, on Wednesday, December 28th at 9:25 p.m. Eastern for the club class. We'd like to thank the PCA Sim Racing title sponsor for Series 9, and that's, of course, Pirelli, and Six Sigma Sim Racing, as well as a huge thank you to LastTenth.com. Better car, better driver. Big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and thanks to our team tonight, Rachel, Ryan, and Cameron and Dougie. None of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.